Dr. Hannah Kim pressed her face against the cold glass of the observation deck. The planet below looked peaceful enough, with its blue-green surface and white clouds drifting across vast oceans, but Hannah knew better than to trust appearances. Human colonies had vanished on worlds just like this one. "Another dead end," muttered Captain Lee Dae-ho as he joined her at the window. No signs of the missing colonists, no distress signals, nothing. Hannah nodded but kept watching the planet. Something felt different about this place. She had studied dozens of worlds where the Veltar had struck, and they all shared common features. This planet was too quiet, too undisturbed. The Veltar usually left clear signs of their presence. "I want to go down there," she said. The captain raised an eyebrow. "The surface teams already did 3 sweeps. They found nothing. They were looking for colonists. I want to look for answers." 2 hours later, Hannah stood on the planet's surface with her research team. The air was thick and humid, filled with the sounds of alien insects and rustling vegetation. Security Chief Park Jin-woo kept his weapon ready as they moved through the dense forest. "This is a waste of time," Park said for the 3rd time. "We should be tracking the Veltar fleet, not playing explorer." Dr. Choi Min-ho, the ship's psychologist, was examining strange scratch marks on a tree trunk. "These are fresh. Something large made them." Hannah knelt beside a cluster of unusual plants. Their leaves were torn and scattered, as if something had crashed through them recently. She followed the trail of broken vegetation. Ignoring Park's protests, the trail led to a small clearing where the ground was torn up and stained with dark patches. But it was the sound that made Hannah stop walking. A low, rumbling noise came from behind a fallen log. "Everyone, stay back," Park ordered, raising his weapon. But Hannah was already moving forward. She had heard that sound before in recordings from destroyed colonies. It was the sound of a Veltar in pain, the creature behind. The log was unlike anything she had expected. It was huge, easily the size of a small vehicle, with scales that shifted between deep purple and black. Its body was somewhere between a wolf and a lizard, with powerful legs and a long tail. But what caught Hannah's attention was the gaping wound. Across its side, still bleeding a dark blue liquid. "It's hurt," she whispered. "It's dangerous," Park replied. "Need to get back to the ship now." The creature's eyes opened, revealing intelligent golden orbs that focused on Hannah. It made no aggressive moves, just watched her with what seemed like curiosity. "Look at it," Hannah said softly. "It's not attacking. It's just ... watching." Choi stepped closer, his scientific curiosity overcoming his fear. "The wound is severe. It's lost a lot of blood." "We're not veterinarians," Park said. "This thing is a Veltar. They're killers." But Hannah was already opening her medical kit. She had basic field training, and the creature needed help. Every species deserves a chance to live. The Veltar watched as she approached, its scales shifting to a lighter shade of purple. When she knelt beside it, the creature made a soft sound, almost like a purr. "This is insane," Park muttered, but he didn't stop her. Hannah worked carefully. Cleaning the wound and applying medical gel, the creature remained perfectly still, as if it understood she was trying to help. Its scales gradually shifted to a pale blue color. "It's responding to your emotions," Dr. Choi observed. "The color changes seem to match your actions. Or maybe it's just getting weaker," Park suggested. When Hannah finished treating the wound, she sat back on her heels. The creature lifted its massive head and looked directly at her. For a moment, they stared at each other in silence. "We need to get back to the ship," she said finally. "But we can't leave it here to die. We absolutely cannot take that thing." "Aboard," Park said firmly. Captain's orders were clear about contact with potentially hostile species. "It's not hostile," Hannah argued. "Look at it. Hit every opportunity to attack us, but it didn't." The creature made another soft sound, almost as if it was agreeing with her. Its scales had shifted to a warm golden color. Dr. Choi was taking readings with his scanner. "The color changes are definitely connected to brain activity," this suggests. "A high level of intelligence, smart enough to fool us," Park said. The trip back to the ship was tense. Hannah had convinced her team to help transport the injured creature, but she knew the real challenge would be convincing. "Captain Lee, The Veltar had been responsible for countless human deaths. No one would understand her decision to save one. They used the cargo shuttle's medical bay to keep the creature stable during the flight. Hannah monitored its vital signs while Dr. Choi continued his scans. The creature's breathing was steady, and its scales had settled into a soft blue-green pattern. "It's almost peaceful," Dr. Choi commented. "Don't let your guard down," Park warned. "These things are born killers." When they docked with the Horizon's Edge, Captain Lee was waiting in the shuttle bay. His expression was grim as he watched them. "Unload the unconscious Veltar. Explain," he said simply. Hannah took a deep breath. It was injured and alone. "I think it might have been abandoned by its pack." "Or it's a spy," suggested Commander Yunsora, the ship's first officer. "The Veltar are cunning. This could be a trap." "It's not a trap," Hannah said firmly. "It's just a wounded animal that needs help." Captain Lee walked around the creature, studying it carefully. "It's smaller than the ones we've seen in combat footage." "Maybe it's young," Dr. Choi suggested. "That could explain why it was alone." The creature's eyes opened, and its scales immediately shifted to a bright orange color. It tried to stand but fell back down, too weak from its injuries. "It's afraid," Hannah said. "All these new people, new smells. It's overwhelmed." She knelt beside the creature and placed her hand gently on its head. The scales immediately began to shift back to the calm blue-green pattern. "Fascinating," Dr. Choi murmured. "It only responds to you." Captain Lee made his decision. "Take it to the medical bay. But I want security guards posted outside at all times." "Thank you," Hannah said. "Don't thank me yet," the captain replied. "If this thing causes any trouble, it goes out the airlock." "Understood." Hannah nodded, but she was already thinking about how to help the creature heal. She had no idea that her decision would change everything, or that the bond she was forming with this strange alien would soon be tested in ways she couldn't imagine. The creature, which she decided to call Koru, was about to become the most important relationship of her life. 3 weeks had passed since Koru arrived on the Horizon's Edge. The creature had healed quickly. It's much faster than Hannah had expected. Its wound was now just a faint scar across its side, and its strength had returned completely. But with healing came new problems. Koru refused to eat when anyone except Hannah was present. The security guards reported that it would pace restlessly in the medical bay, its scales shifting between dark purple and angry red whenever they entered the room. Only when Hannah arrived would the colors change to calm blue-green. "This is becoming a serious issue," Captain Lee said during the morning briefing. "The creature is completely dependent on Dr. Kim. What happens if she gets sick or injured?" "It could be a form of imprinting," Dr. Choi suggested. "Some Earth animals bond with the first creature they see after birth or trauma." Commander Yunsora looked skeptical. "Or it's manipulating her. The Veltar are intelligent. This could be part of some larger plan." Hannah shook her head. "I've been studying its behavior patterns. Koru isn't manipulating anyone. It's trying to communicate." She had spent countless hours observing the creature, taking notes on every color change and sound it made. Slowly, patterns were emerging. The scales weren't just random shifts of color. They were deliberate, purposeful. "Show me," Captain Lee said. An hour later, the senior staff gathered in the medical bay. Koru was lying on the reinforced bed Hannah had designed for it, its scales a neutral gray color. When it saw the group of people, the scales immediately shifted to orange. The color Hannah had learned meant anxiety. "Watch," Hannah said softly. She approached Koru and spoke in gentle tones. "It's okay. These are friends." Orange faded to yellow, then to pale blue. Koru's breathing slowed, and it made a soft rumbling sound. "Now watch this," Hannah continued. She moved to the food dispenser and prepared Koru's meal. She worked. The creature's scales began to pulse with warm golden light. "It's anticipating food," Dr. Choi observed. "The color change happens before you even offer it." "Exactly," Hannah said. "And look at this." She pretended to trip, stumbling slightly. Koru's scales immediately flashed bright red and it lifted. "Its head in concern. It's worried about you," Commander Yoon said, sounding surprised. "There's more," Hannah said. She had been waiting weeks to show them this. She sat beside Koru and placed her hand on its head. Then she began to make a low humming sound, barely audible. Koru's scales shifted to deep purple, and it began to make its own sound, a subsonic vibration that they could feel more than hear. The patterns on its scales began to change, flowing, like water across its body. It's trying to talk, Dr. Choi whispered. Engineer Bae Sung-min, who had been quietly observing, stepped forward. The vibrations are following a pattern. It's like a language. It's impossible, Security Chief Park said. The Veltar don't communicate, they just attack. Maybe we never gave them a chance to communicate, Hannah replied. Over the following days, Hannah worked with Bae to analyze Koru's sounds and color patterns. They discovered that the creature was using a complex system of both visual and audio signals. Different colors meant different things, and the subsonic vibrations carried additional information. It's like having two conversations at once, Bae explained as they studied the recordings. The colors show emotions and basic concepts, while the vibrations carry more detailed information. Hannah was fascinated. No wonder humans never understood them. We were only seeing half the conversation. Their breakthrough came when Koru began to respond to human words. Hannah had been repeating simple phrases while showing different colors and sounds. Gradually, the creature began to associate human speech with its own communication methods. Food, Hannah said, holding up a nutrition bar. Koru's scales shifted to golden yellow, and it made a specific vibration pattern. Said, pointing to herself. The scales became warm blue, with a different sound. Danger, she said, making an aggressive gesture. The scales flashed red, and Koru made a sharp, warning sound. Dr. Nam Yoon-ji, Hannah's research partner, was impressed but concerned. This is incredible work, but you're spending too much time with the creature. The crew is starting to talk. Hannah knew she was right. She had been eating her meals in the medical bay, sleeping in a chair beside Koru's bed, and spending every free moment studying the creature's behavior. But she couldn't help herself. Each day brought new discoveries. I understand why it was alone, Hannah told Nam during one of their late-night sessions. Koru keeps showing me images through its color patterns. I think it was cast out by its pack. For what? For being different. For not wanting to fight. Through patient work, Hannah had learned to read some of Koru's more complex communications. The creature showed her images of other Veltar, larger and more aggressive. It showed scenes of violence, of hunting, of destruction. But whenever these images appeared, Koru's scales would shift to dark, unhappy colors. It doesn't like violence, Hannah explained to Captain Lee. I think that's why it was abandoned. It wouldn't participate in raids against other species. That's a nice theory, Commander Yoon said. But how do we know it's telling the truth? Their answer came sooner than expected. Ensign Joan was delivering supplies to the medical bay when she accidentally knocked over a tray of medical instruments. The loud crash startled Koru, and the creature jumped up quickly. Gi-won fell backward, and Kuru's massive paw accidentally scraped across her arm as it tried to avoid stepping on her. The injury was minor, just a shallow cut, but it bled freely. The moment Koru saw the blood, its entire body went rigid. Its scales flashed through a rapid series of colors, panic, fear, and what looked like guilt. It backed away from G1, making distressed sounds. It's okay, Hannah said quickly, rushing to treat G1's cut. It was an accident. Koru was inconsolable. It retreated to the far corner of the room, its scales now a deep, sorrowful black. It refused to eat for 2 days, despite Hannah's attempts to comfort it. It's genuinely upset about hurting someone, Dr. Choi observed. Its level of guilt suggests a highly developed moral sense. Or it's a good actor, Park countered. But even he sounded less convinced than before. The incident divided the crew. Some saw it as proof that Koru was dangerous and unpredictable. Others began to believe Hannah's theory that the creature was different from other Veltar. I don't care what it feels, Captain Lee said firmly. If word gets out that we're harboring a Veltar, we'll have every human colony demanding our heads. But Hannah wasn't giving up. She had seen something in Koru that no one else understood. The creature wasn't just intelligent. It was gentle, caring, and desperate to be understood. Late that night, as she sat beside Koru's bed, The creature finally began to eat again. Its scales shifted to a soft, grateful blue as it looked at her. "I know you're not like the others," she whispered. "I just need to prove it to everyone else." Neither of them knew that their time was running out. Deep in space, Veltar ships were already tracking their location, drawn by signals they couldn't detect. The real test of their bond was about to begin. The alarm bells started ringing at 0300 hours, jerking everyone from their sleep. Hannah rushed to the bridge, still in her pajamas, her heart pounding with fear. The main screen showed 3 massive ships approaching the horizon's edge. Their design was unlike anything in the human fleet, with curved hulls that looked almost organic. "Veltar, hunting ships," Captain Lee announced grimly. They appeared out of nowhere and are closing fast. Communications Officer Yang Min-soo looked up from his station. "Captain, they're sending a message. It's in their language, but the computer is translating it." The voice that came through the speakers was deep and threatening. "Human vessel, you carry what belongs to us. Return the defective one, or face destruction." Hannah felt her blood turn cold. It found Koru. "How did they know?" Commander Yoon asked. "Maybe they've been tracking us," Dr. Choi suggested. "Out." "Or maybe they can sense their own kind somehow."
"Out."
Down in the medical bay, Koru was in distress. Its scales were flashing rapidly between dark purple and bright red. The creature was pacing back and forth, making low, frightened sounds. "It knows they're here," Hannah said when she arrived. "Look at it." Security Chief Park was already there. "With his team, this proves it. The thing is a spy. It's been sending signals to its pack." "No," Hannah said firmly. "Look at its colors. That's pure fear. It's terrified of them." Koru saw Hannah and immediately moved to her side. Its scales shifted to a desperate orange color, and it began making the subsonic vibrations they had learned meant urgent communication. "It's trying to tell me something," Hannah said, placing her hand on Koru's head. The creature's scales showed rapid flashes of different colors, images, and emotions mixing together. "What is it saying?" Captain Lee asked as he entered the medical. Hannah concentrated, trying to read the complex pattern of colors and sounds. "It's showing me other Veltar, bigger ones. And it's showing me death." "Its own death?" Dr. Choi asked. "Yes, it's saying they came to kill it." The ship shuddered as the Veltar vessels moved closer. Captain Lee received another communication on his headset. "They're demanding to board us," he said. "They want to inspect our ship and take back what they call their defective member." "You can't let them," Hannah pleaded. "They'll kill Koru." "And if I don't, they'll kill all of us," Lee replied. "I have 200 crew members to think about." The debate was interrupted by Engineer Bay, who burst into the medical bay. "Captain, you need to see this. I've been monitoring the Veltar communications. They're not just here for the creature. They're planning something bigger." He led them to the communications center where banks of screens showed decoded Veltar messages. "They're calling this one a contamination risk. They say it's been infected by human contact and must be destroyed before it spreads weakness to other packs." "Weakness?" Commander Yoon asked. "They consider mercy and compassion to be diseases," Bay explained. "This creature didn't just refuse to fight. It's been exposed to human values. They see that as dangerous." Back in the medical bay, Koru was growing more agitated. Scales were now showing images of the boarding party approaching. Somehow, it could sense them getting closer. "We need to make a decision," Captain Lee said. "Do we fight 3 warships, or do we hand over one creature?" "There has to be another way," Hannah argued. "There is," said pilot Lim Tae-young, who had been quietly listening. "We could use it as a bargaining chip. Tell them we'll only return their creature if they agree to leave human space alone." "That's not going to work," Dr. Choi said. "Here, because they see the creature as a threat, they won't negotiate." Medical Officer Song Ha-jin spoke up. "What about galactic refugee laws? If this creature is fleeing persecution, we're legally bound to protect it." "Legal protection doesn't mean much when you're facing 3 warships," Park pointed out. The ship shuddered again as the Veltar vessels attached boarding tubes to the hull. Captain Lee made his decision. "Security teams to boarding stations. We'll allow a small inspection party aboard. but they moved through the ship with escorts only. Hannah stayed with Koru as the boarding party came aboard. The creature had gone completely still, its scales now a dull gray color. It was trying to hide its emotions, to appear lifeless and unimportant. "It's protecting itself," Hannah whispered. "It's trying to look like it doesn't matter." The Veltar boarding party consisted of 3 creatures, each larger than Koru. Their scales were darker, more armored-looking, and their eyes were cold and calculating. The leader was massive, with scars covering its hide and scales that shifted. Between deep red and black dot, when they entered the medical bay, Koru pressed itself against the wall, trying to become invisible. The lead Veltar looked at it with obvious disgust. "This is the defective one," it said in heavily accented human speech. "It has been contaminated by your weakness." "What weakness?" Captain Lee asked. "It refuses to hunt. It refuses to kill. It shows mercy to prey species. This is a disease that must not spread." The second Veltar moved closer to Koru, raising what looked like a weapon. "We will end its suffering now." "Wait," Hannah said, stepping forward. "You can't just kill it here." The lead Veltar turned to her, its scales flashing with angry red patterns. "You are the source of contamination. You have infected our pack member with your human weakness." It raised its clawed hand as if to strike her, but suddenly Koru was there, placing itself between Hannah and the larger creature. For the first time since the boarding party arrived, Koru's scales showed their true colors. Bright gold and silver patterns flowed across its body, the colors of defiance and protection. "Impossible," the lead Veltar hissed. "It protects the prey species. Protects a friend," Hannah said firmly. The standoff lasted several tense seconds. Then the lead Veltar lowered its hand. "This contamination is worse than we thought. Defective one must be destroyed immediately before it spreads this sickness to others." "No," Koru said, speaking human words for the first time. Its voice was rough and difficult to understand, but the meaning was clear. "No, kill friend." Effect on the crew was immediate. Even Security Chief Park stepped back in shock. The creature they had feared and distrusted had just spoken, and its first words were to protect one of them. "It can talk," young Minsu whispered. "It's been learning," Dr. Choi said with wonder. "All this time it's been learning our language." That lead Veltar was furious. Scales were now pure black, a color none of them had seen before. "This proves the contamination is complete. We will take it now and cleanse it with fire." "Over my dead body," Hannah said, moving to stand beside Koru. "That can be arranged," the Veltar replied. But before anyone could move, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. More Veltar vessels were approaching, and these were even larger than the first 3. "The war fleet," the lead Veltar said with satisfaction. "Soon, all contamination will be burned away." As the boarding party prepared to take Koru, the crew of the Horizon's Edge faced their hardest decision yet. They had seen the creature's loyalty and intelligence, but could they risk their lives to protect it? The answer would determine not just Koru's fate, but the future of human-Veltar relations, forever. The Veltar war fleet hung in space like a dark cloud, 30 ships strong. Each vessel was larger than the Horizon's Edge, their hulls covered in weapon ports that glowed with threatening red light. Captain Lee stood on the bridge, knowing that his small research ship had no chance against such overwhelming force. "Incoming message from Galactic Command," Communications Officer Yang Minsu reported, his voice tight with stress. Admiral Kwon Jae-sung's face appeared on the main screen. His expression was grim, and his words were direct. "Captain Lee, you will immediately surrender the Veltar creature to prevent an interstellar war. That is a direct order." "Admiral, the creature poses no threat," Captain Lee replied. "It's actually helped us understand their species better." "I don't care if it can sing opera," Admiral Kwon snapped. 3 human colonies are within range of that fleet. It will not risk millions of lives for one alien. In the medical bay, Hannah could hear the conversation through the ship's communication system. Koru was pressed against her side, its scales showing deep purple patterns of sadness and fear. The creature understood what was happening. "No go," Koru said quietly, its rough voice filled with pain. "They kill Koru. They kill for showing mercy." I won't let them, Hannah promised. But even as she spoke, she knew she might not be able to keep that promise. Dr. Choi was monitoring Koru's vital signs, and the readings were alarming. Its stress levels are off the charts. The psychological trauma could kill it, even if the Veltar don't. Security Chief Park entered the medical bay with a full security team. His face was apologetic but determined. Dr. Kim, I have orders to prepare the creature for transfer. You can't do this, Hannah said, stepping protectively in front of Koru. It's not just an animal. It's a thinking, feeling, being with rights. It's a member of a species that has killed thousands of humans, Park replied. I'm sorry, but orders are orders. Koru's scales flashed with bright orange panic as the security team approached. It tried to back away, but there was nowhere to go in the small medical bay. The creature made desperate sounds, the subsonic vibrations so intense that everyone in the room could feel them. It's trying to tell us something, Dr. Choi said, studying his instruments. The vibration patterns are more complex than anything we've recorded. Engineer Bay burst into the room, his tablet showing streams of data. It's not just communicating with us. It's trying to send a message to the Veltar fleet. What kind of message? Hannah asked. I'm not sure, but it's using frequencies we've never seen before. It's like it's trying to reach someone specific. The answer came minutes later, when a single Veltar ship broke away from the fleet. It was smaller than the others, and its hull was covered in what looked like battle damage. That ship is responding to the creature's call, Yang Min-soo reported from the bridge. It's requesting permission to board. Captain Lee was confused. Why would another Veltar ship want to help? The answer came when the new boarding party arrived. It consisted of only 2 Veltar, both smaller than the original hunting pack. Their scales were lighter in color, and they moved with less aggression. We come for the exile, the leader said in careful human speech. We come to speak. Truth, the original Veltar boarding party, was furious. You have no authority here. The exile must be cleansed. The exile has done no wrong, the newcomer replied. The exile chose mercy over murder. This is not weakness. Yes. Hannah realized what was happening. There are others like Koru, others who don't believe in the old ways. A small group, the newcomer confirmed. We have watched the exile's journey. We have seen its bond with the human female. This proves that different species can understand each other. This is heresy, the hunting pack leader snarled. All defectives must be destroyed. No, said the newcomer firmly. Out. We challenge the old laws. We demand trial by combat for the exile's life. The hunting pack leader's scales flashed with rage. You dare challenge the ancient ways. You challenge laws that make us murderers, the newcomer replied. The exile has shown us a new path. Path where strength comes from protecting others, not destroying them. Captain Lee found himself in the middle of an alien civil war. What does this mean for us? It means we have a choice, the newcomer explained. If the exile wins trial by combat, it and all who follow the new path will be free. If it loses, we all die. And if we refuse to let this happen on our ship, Commander Yoon asked, then the fleet destroys your ship and takes the exile anyway, the hunting pack leader said with satisfaction. Hannah looked at Koru, who was trembling but trying to stand tall. What do you want to do? Fight, Koru said simply. Fight for right. To choose, fight for right to be different. But even as they spoke, Admiral Kwan's voice came through the communication system again. Captain Lee, you have 5 minutes to transfer the creature. We have reports that the Veltar fleet is preparing to attack civilian targets. The Admiral is right, Captain Lee said heavily. I can't risk innocent lives, but you can risk Koru's. Life? Hannah asked angrily. I can risk 1 life to save millions, Lee replied. I don't like it, but that's command. The preparation for transfer began immediately. Security teams moved through the ship, clearing corridors and preparing the shuttle. Bay. Medical officer Song Hai-jin prepared sedatives to keep Koru calm during the transfer. This is wrong, Dr. Nam Yoonji said quietly. We're betraying everything we stand for as scientists. We're saving lives, Commander Yoon replied, but she didn't sound convinced. As the preparations continued, Hannah spent every moment she could. With Koru, The creature's scales had turned to a dull gray color, the shade of resignation and defeat. "Not give up," Koru said softly. "Hannah, not give up on Koru." "I'm not giving up," Hannah promised. "But I don't know how to stop this." "Koru, no," the creature replied. "Koru always know this day come. Koru ready to die for what believe." The transfer. Ship arrived 2 hours later, a heavily armored vessel designed for transporting dangerous prisoners. As they prepared to move Koru, the creature did something unexpected. It began to sing. The sound was unlike anything they had heard before, a haunting melody that seemed to come from deep in Koru's chest. The other Veltar, both the hunting pack and the newcomers, stopped what they were doing to listen. "It's a death song," the newcomer explained quietly. "The exile prepares to die with honor." "No," Hannah said, tears streaming down her face. "It's not going to die. I won't let it." But even as she spoke, the security teams were moving Koru toward the shuttle bay. The creature looked back at her one last time, its scales showing the soft blue-green of love and gratitude. "Thank you," Koru said in its rough voice. "Thank you for show, Koru. What friendship mean?" As the transfer ship departed with Koru aboard, Hannah watched from the observation deck. The creature was pressed against the viewport, its eyes fixed on her until the ship disappeared into hyperspace. The crew of the Horizon's Edge stood in silence, knowing they had just witnessed something terrible. They had betrayed a friend to save strangers, and the weight of that decision would haunt them forever, but in the depths of space. The Veltar warfleet was already moving toward its next target, and the real battle was just beginning. 3 months had passed since Koru was taken away. Hannah could barely sleep, and when she did, she dreamed of golden eyes and shifting scales. The Horizon's Edge had returned to Research Station Alpha for repairs and resupply, but the mood aboard, the ship remained dark. Dr. Choi had tried to help Hannah deal with her grief, but she refused his sessions. "There's nothing to deal with," she would say. "We abandoned a friend." End of story. The crew tried to move on, but everyone felt the weight of their decision. Even Security Chief Park seemed quieter than usual, and Captain Lee had requested a transfer to a different assignment. "The guilt is eating us alive," Dr. Namyoon-ji observed during one of their research meetings. "Maybe we should have fought against 30 warships," Commander Yoon replied. "We would have been destroyed in minutes. At least we would have died with honor," Engineer Bay said quietly. The discussion was interrupted by emergency alarms blaring throughout the station. Admiral Shin Ruan's voice came over the communication system, tense and urgent. "All personnel to emergency stations. We have multiple Veltar fleets approaching. This is not a drill." Hannah rushed to the observation deck with the rest of the crew. What she saw made her blood freeze. The space around the station was filled with Veltar ships, more than anyone had ever seen in one place. Hundreds of vessels, from small fighters to massive battleships. "It's the entire Veltar armada," Captain Lee said in shock. "Every pack, every clan, they've united." Communications officer Yang Minsu was trying to decode their messages. "They're saying the contamination has spread. They claim humans are a disease that must be eliminated before it infects more of their kind." "Because of Koru," Hannah whispered. "They're doing this because Koru showed them that their own kind could choose differently." The battle began immediately. The stations. Defense ships, outnumbered 50-1, fought bravely, but were quickly overwhelmed. Explosions lit up the darkness of space as human vessels were destroyed one by one. "All civilian ships to escape pods," Admiral Shin ordered. "Evacuate immediately." The Horizon's Edge launched its escape pods as Veltar fighters swarmed around the station. Hannah found herself in Pod 7 with Dr. Choi, Engineer Bay, Medical Officer Song, and 6 other crew members. Their pod was damaged during launch, its navigation system failing as they spiraled toward the nearby moon. The crash landing was rough. When Hannah regained consciousness, she found herself in a rocky cave with the other survivors. Bay was working frantically on their emergency communicator while Song treated the injured. "The main battle is lost," Bay reported, picking up scattered radio signals. "The station has fallen. Veltar ground forces are hunting survivors across The system? How many made it out? Dr. Choi asked. Unknown. Maybe a few hundred out of thousands. They spent 2 days hiding in the cave system, listening to the sounds of Veltar hunters moving through the rocks above them. Their food was running low, and their water recycler was damaged. They're getting closer, Song whispered, as heavy footsteps echoed through the tunnels. Hannah closed her eyes. Thinking of Koru, if the creature was still alive, it was probably being forced to hunt them. The thought made her sick. Movement in. Tunnel 3 Bay reported from his makeshift sensor array. Multiple contacts, moving fast. The survivors prepared for their final stand. They had 2 working energy weapons and a handful of emergency flares. Against Veltar warriors, it wouldn't be enough. They're here, Dr. Choi said, as shadows appeared at the tunnel entrance. But the figure that emerged from the darkness was smaller than expected and familiar. Koru, Hana whispered in disbelief. The creature stepped into the light, and Hana's heart broke. Koru was covered in scars, its scales dull and damaged. Fresh wounds crossed its hide, and one of its eyes was clouded with injury. But it was alive, Hana, Koru said in its rough voice. Found you. How? She asked, tears streaming down her face. Followed scent, followed heart, Koru replied. Escaped when battle started. Came to find friend. Then the reunion was interrupted. By more sounds from the tunnels. This time, it was definitely Veltar warriors, their heavy steps getting closer. They followed me, Koru said sadly. Tried to lose them, but they too good at hunting. Then we fight together, Hannah said, picking up one of the energy weapons. No, Koru said firmly. Koru fight. Humans hide. We're not leaving you again, Dr. Choi said, surprising everyone. We made that mistake once. Engineer Bay looked up from his equipment. The communicator is working. I'm picking up signals from other survivor groups. If we can hold out until rescue arrives... ... How long? Song asked. Maybe an hour? Maybe 2? Koru's. Scales shifted to determine gold and silver patterns. Koru can hold for 2 hours. Not alone, Hannah said. We're a team now. The first Veltar warriors appeared at the tunnel mouth minutes later. There were 5 of them, each larger than Koru, their scales dark with battle fury. When they saw Koru standing with the humans, their leader snarled in rage. The defective one stands with prey, it hissed. This proves the contamination is complete. This proves that friendship is stronger than hate, Koru replied, its voice steady, despite its injuries. The lead warrior drew a curved blade that glowed with energy. Then you will die with your human pets. Maybe, Koru said, moving to stand between the warriors and the humans. But humans taught Koru something important. Sometimes dying for others is how you really live. The battle in the caves was about to begin, and Hannah knew that whatever happened next would determine not just their survival, but the future of both their species. The creature that no one had trusted was about to prove that some bonds are worth any sacrifice. As the Veltar warriors advanced, Koru's scales blazed with colors of courage and love, ready to give everything for the friends who had finally learned to believe in him. The narrow canyon where they made their final stand was lit by the alien moon's pale light. The human survivors had found a defensive position between 2 large rocks, with Koru standing guard at the only entrance. Behind them, the canyon walls rose straight up, impossible to climb. This is it, Dr. Choi said quietly. No way out but through them. Engineer Bay was still working on his communicator, trying to reach the rescue ships, getting signals, but they're too far away. At least 30 minutes before anyone can reach us. Hannah checked her energy weapon one more time. It had maybe 20 shots left. It's not nearly enough for what was coming. The Veltar hunting party had grown. What started as 5 warriors was now 15, with more arriving every few minutes. Moved like shadows between the rocks, surrounding the canyon. Their leader, a massive creature with black scales and yellow eyes, stepped into the open. I am Varix the Apex, it announced in perfect human speech. I have come to end this contamination. Once and for all, Koru stepped forward, its scales showing the gold and silver patterns of defiance. Despite its injuries, it stood tall and proud. "I am Koru the Exile," it replied. "I stand with my chosen family." Varix laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "Family? They are prey animals. Food? Nothing more." "They are friends," Koru said simply. "They showed me that strength comes from protecting others, not destroying them." The other Veltar warriors spread out in a circle, trapping the humans in the center. Medical Officer Song was treating the wounded, while the others prepared for battle. They all knew they were going to die, but none of them ran. "You have been poisoned by their weaknesses," Varix continued. "But I offer you one chance for honor. Fight me in single combat. If you win, the humans go free. If you lose, they all die slowly." Hannah started to protest, but Koru looked back at her with gentle eyes. "This is the only way," it said softly. "Koru, choose this." "But you're already hurt," she said, seeing the fresh blood on Koru's scales. "Koru, fight for what matters," the creature replied. "Fight for family." The circle of warriors stepped back, creating a fighting ring in the canyon. By ancient Veltar law, no one could interfere in a challenge combat. It would be Koru against Varix with no help from anyone. Varix was enormous, easily twice Koru's size. Its scales were like armor, and its claws gleamed with deadly sharpness. It had clearly never lost a fight. "You cannot win," Varix said as they circled each other. "You are weak, contaminated, defective." "Maybe," Koru replied. But Koru, not fighting for self, fighting for others. That made Koru strong. The battle began with a clash that shook the canyon walls. Varix was faster and stronger, but Koru was desperate. The smaller creature dodged and weaved, trying to avoid the worst of Varix's attacks. But it wasn't enough. Varix's claws raked across Koru's side, opening new wounds. Dark blue blood, the color of Veltar nobility, began to flow freely. "You bleed noble blood," Varix said with surprise. "Come from the high clans?" "Blood means nothing," Koru gasped, struggling to stay upright. "Actions mean everything." Yes. The fight continued, and it was clear that Koru was losing. The creature was already weakened from its earlier escape, and Varix was too strong. But Koru never stopped trying, never gave up. "This is painful to watch," one of the warrior circles said. "End it quickly." But Varix was enjoying the slow defeat. "I want it to suffer. I want it to know that its human friends will die because of its weaknesses." That was when something changed in Koru. Its scales, which had been fading to gray, suddenly blazed with bright colors. Not the colors of fear or pain, but the colors of love and determination. "Never," Koru said, finding new strength. "Never let friends be hurt." Varix lunged for the final attack, aiming not at Koru, but at Hannah. The apex wanted to end the fight by killing what Koru cared about most. Koru threw itself between them. Taking the full force of Varix's claws across its chest, the wounds were deep, cutting through to vital organs. Noble blue blood flowed like water, pooling on the canyon floor. But Koru didn't fall. Instead, it grabbed Varix with its remaining strength and held on, preventing the larger creature from reaching the humans. "Impossible," Varix whispered. "Nothing can survive those wounds." "Love survives," Koru said, its voice getting weaker. "Friendship survives. Hope survives." The other Veltar warriors were staring in shock. They had never seen anyone survive such wounds through willpower alone. More importantly, they had never seen noble blood spilled for another species. In Veltar culture, noble blood was sacred. It could only be shed for the most worthy causes. To spill noble blood for aliens was either the greatest insanity or the greatest honor. "The law is clear," one of the warriors said quietly. "Noble blood has been shed in protection of others. The challenge is complete." "No," Varix snarled. "The defective one is dying. I am the victor. The law does not require survival." Another warrior replied, "Only the willingness to sacrifice. Noble blood has been given freely." Koru was still standing, though barely. Its scales were now showing patterns none of them had seen before, swirling mixtures of gold, silver, and blue that seemed to pulse with inner light. "Is finished," Koru said to Hannah. "Friends are safe now." "You're not dying," Hannah said desperately, trying to reach the creature. "We can fix this." But the warrior circle was already changing. The Veltar were performing some kind of ritual, their scales shifting to match Koru's patterns. Even Varric seemed affected, its aggressive posture softening. "What's happening, Doctor?" Choi asked. The warrior who had spoken before answered, "The exile has achieved something we thought impossible. It is proven that caring for others makes one stronger, not weaker. This changes everything." "How?" Song asked, while trying to treat Koru's wounds. "The old laws say that noble blood spilled in true sacrifice creates a sacred bond. All who witness it must honor that bond. The humans are now under our protection." Varix lowered its head in defeat. "The contamination spreads," it said, but there was no anger in its voice anymore, only wonder. "Not contamination," Koru corrected, its voice barely a whisper. "Evolution. Veltar can be more than hunters, can be protectors, can be friends." Rescue ships arrived to find an impossible scene. Veltar warriors were helping human survivors, sharing their medical supplies and protecting them from other hunting packs. The sight of traditional enemies working together spread quickly through both fleets. Koru survived, though barely. Its sacrifice had created something new, a bridge between two species that had been enemies for generations. Some Veltar still followed the old ways, but others began to question whether strength really came from causing pain. Months later, as Koru recovered on a joint human-Veltar medical station, Hannah sat beside its bed watching the news reports. The first piece, negotiations between their species, had just begun. "Did you know this would happen?" she asked. Koru's scales shifted to gentle blue-green, the color of contentment. "Hoped," it said simply. "Sometimes hope is all you need to change the galaxy." Outside the window, human and Veltar ships flew together on joint patrols, protecting both species from those who still chose violence over understanding. The creature that no one trusted had bled for its human friend and changed everything. In the end, the greatest battles are not won with weapons, but with the courage to believe that enemies can become family and that love is stronger than fear.